My child, I know what it feels like when every door seems to close at once. You look at the rent, the deposit, the mortgage payment, the moving costs, and the numbers refuse to cooperate. You wait for an email, a return call, or an approval, and every hour of silence feels heavier than the last. Perhaps boxes are already stacked against a wall. Perhaps your lease is ending. Perhaps you are trying to keep your fear hidden from the people who depend on you. A denied application is not a verdict on your worth. A smaller budget is not proof that you have failed. A change in your living situation does not erase your dignity. Today, I will help you separate panic from wisdom, shame from truth, and pressure from the next faithful step. We will look honestly at what is happening. We will bring practical decisions into the light. Then we will pray for peace, clarity, protection, and courage for the road ahead. Take one slow breath. You do not have to solve the next year in the next 5 minutes. You only need enough calm to see the next right step. I see the exhaustion that housing uncertainty creates. It is more than being tired. It follows you into bed and wakes you before the alarm. It sits beside you at the kitchen table while you compare numbers. It rides with you during your commute. It appears when your phone lights up, and you wonder whether the message will bring good news or another disappointment. You may be asking questions you are afraid to say aloud. Where will we go? How will we pay for this? What will the children think? What if I have to ask for help? What if people assume I was irresponsible? What if I make the wrong decision because the deadline is so close? I am not offended by those questions. Bring them to me. Faith does not require you to pretend that uncertainty feels easy. You can trust me and still feel disappointed. You can pray and still need a plan. You can believe that I am present and still ask a friend, a counselor, a housing professional, a legal aid service, or a community organization for help. There is no shame in wanting a secure home. Shelter, stability, and safety matter. The desire to give your family a peaceful place to live is not selfish. But when that good desire becomes tied to your identity, every rejection begins to feel like a personal wound. A landlord says no, and you hear, "You are not good enough." A lender changes the terms, and you hear, "You will never get ahead." A listing disappears, and you hear, "You missed your only chance." Those conclusions are not the truth. An application is evaluated through policies, income requirements, credit information, timing, availability, and many other factors. It cannot measure your character, your love, your perseverance, or the unseen sacrifices you have made. A housing decision may affect your circumstances, but it does not have authority to name you. You are still mine. You are not less valuable because you rent instead of own. You are not less faithful because you need to downsize. You are not less capable because you must live with family for a season, share expenses, move farther away, or accept a temporary arrangement. Your address can change without changing who you are. I also want to correct a burden that religious language may have placed on you. Faith is not a formula that guarantees a dream house, an instant approval, or a sudden financial breakthrough. Prayer is not a way to pressure heaven into approving a payment you cannot sustain. A closed door is not always punishment, and an open door is not always permission. Some doors close because a property is no longer available. Some close because the timing does not work. Some close because the financial terms are unsafe. Some close for reasons you may never fully understand. Do not rush to call every obstacle spiritual warfare, and do not assume every uneasy feeling is a divine message. Bring your concern to me, then test it with facts, wise counsel, careful questions, and the peace that grows from truth rather than impulse. I do not ask you to ignore the housing market, your income, your debt, your credit, or the needs of your family. I ask you to face those realities without letting them become your master. Faith looks directly at the numbers and says, "God, give me wisdom to respond well." Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 and 6 teaches you to trust the Lord with all your heart and not depend only on your own understanding. That does not mean refusing to think. It means refusing to let fear be the only voice in your thinking. You submit your plans to me. You remain teachable. You make room for a path that may look different from the one you imagined. James chapter 1 verse 5 says that when you lack wisdom, you may ask God, who gives generously. Ask me for wisdom that is practical. Ask me to help you notice hidden fees, unrealistic expectations, unsafe conditions, and pressure tactics. Ask me to show you which questions to ask and whom to consult. Ask me for the humility to change direction when new information reveals that a plan is not sustainable. Luke chapter 14 speaks about counting the cost before building. That principle matters here. Counting the cost is not fear, it is stewardship. Reviewing the full monthly payment, utilities, insurance, transportation, repairs, deposits, moving expenses, and possible changes in income is not a lack of faith. It is one way faith becomes responsible action. Before you fill out another application or sign another document, pause long enough to know what you can truly carry. Not what a salesperson says you might qualify for, not what would impress other people, not what would recreate the picture you had in your mind 10 years ago. Ask what you can sustain while still buying food, caring for your health, meeting essential obligations, and leaving some room for unexpected costs. Peace is more valuable than prestige. A beautiful house can become a source of constant dread when every payment pushes a family closer to crisis. A modest home can become a place of deep rest when the cost leaves room to breathe. I am not glorified by appearances that destroy your sleep, strain your marriage, or make every small emergency feel catastrophic. Let peace guide your priorities, but let wisdom define what peace means. Peace is not merely feeling excited about a property. Peace includes truthful numbers, clear terms, reasonable safety, and the freedom to ask questions without being pressured. Peace can survive careful examination. A good decision does not need deception to protect it. If someone urges you to sign immediately, pay through an unusual method, hide information, skip an inspection, ignore a clause, or accept terms you do not understand, slow down. Ask for the agreement in writing, read it. Seek qualified help when necessary. Do not let an approaching deadline remove your right to understand what you are agreeing to. If you are facing eviction, foreclosure, unsafe housing, discrimination, a custody issue, or a legal deadline, spiritual encouragement is not a substitute for qualified legal guidance. Reach out promptly to a licensed attorney, a reputable legal aid organization, a housing counselor, or the appropriate local service. I can meet you through prayer, and I can also meet you through people trained to help with the problem in front of you. If you may not have a safe place to sleep, do not wait in silence because you feel embarrassed. Contact trusted family, friends, your church, local housing services, shelters, or community organizations as early as possible. Asking for help is not surrendering your dignity. It is protecting your life and the people entrusted to your care. Now bring your attention to your body. Notice your shoulders. Notice your jaw. Notice whether you are holding your breath as though bad news could arrive at any second. Release what you can. Put both feet on the floor if that is comfortable. Take a slow breath in and let it out without forcing it. Say quietly, I do not have to make a permanent decision from a moment of panic. That is your first early victory. You are creating space between pressure and action. I know the timeline may still be urgent. Calm does not change the date printed on a notice. A deep breath does not create money. But a calmer mind can read more carefully, ask better questions, remember available resources, and recognize when fear is pushing you toward a harmful choice. You do not need to map the next 10 steps at once. Let us name the next 4. First, write down the full truth of your present situation. Include income you can reasonably depend on, essential expenses, debt payments, transportation, childcare, medical needs, deposits, moving costs, and the amount you can safely spend each month. Do not punish yourself while you do this. Numbers are information. They are not an accusation. Second, identify the deadline that is truly fixed and the parts that may be negotiable. Could a landlord grant a short extension? Could a move-in date shift? Could a payment plan be discussed? Could someone help with transportation, packing, storage, or childcare? Do not assume the answer is no before you ask respectfully. Third, contact one trustworthy person or resource within the next 24 hours. Tell the truth plainly. You might say, I am looking for safe housing within this budget, and my timeline is tight. Do you know of any reputable leads or local programs? Clear requests make it easier for people to help. Fourth, decide in advance what you will not compromise. Write down your boundaries. You may need a safe environment. A payment below a certain amount, reasonable transportation, written terms, or a condition that protects a family member's health. When pressure rises, those boundaries will keep fear from rewriting your values. These steps are not separate from faith. They are faith expressed through stewardship, honesty, humility, and courage. As you compare possible homes, make a simple page with 3 headings: safe, sustainable, and workable. Under safe, note the condition of the property, the surrounding environment, accessibility, and anything that affects the well-being of the household. Under sustainable, include the complete monthly cost and the money required before move-in. Under workable, consider transportation, work schedules, school, medical care, family support, and the length of the agreement. A place does not have to be perfect, but it should meet enough of these needs without placing you in foreseeable danger or constant financial crisis. Gather important documents before the pressure becomes greater. Keep identification, income records, references, notices, application copies, receipts, and written communication together in one secure place. Write down the names, dates, and promises connected to important calls. Clear records can reduce confusion, help professionals understand your situation, and protect you when memories become blurred by stress. If a plan involves another adult, do not let fear turn the conversation into blame. Set a time to review the facts when neither person is rushing. Speak about the problem as something you will face together. Use clear sentences such as, "This is the amount we can safely afford," or "This deadline requires us to contact someone today." Agreement may not come instantly, but respectful facts are more useful than accusations. If you must pack, divide the work into small zones. Begin with items you rarely use. Label boxes clearly. Keep medicine, documents, chargers, basic clothing, food, and essential supplies where you can reach them. Ask for physical help before your body is injured or completely depleted. You do not prove your strength by carrying every box alone. You may discover that the home you can afford today is smaller than the one you hoped for. You may need to widen the search, change the commute, rent for longer, share a home, or accept a temporary place while you rebuild. Grieve the change without calling it failure. The world often presents life as a straight line, moving toward bigger rooms, newer kitchens, better neighborhoods, and more impressive possessions. But growth is not always measured by expansion. Sometimes wisdom reduces the load. Sometimes freedom looks like fewer payments. Sometimes a step that appears backward from the outside is actually a step toward stability, health, and peace. If moving into a smaller place allows you to sleep, feed your family, care for your body, and rebuild savings, then the smaller place may serve you better in this season. If renting protects you from a mortgage that would consume nearly everything you earn, renting may be the wiser choice. If staying with trusted family for a defined period gives you time to recover, plan, and move safely, that season does not erase your adulthood or your worth. Temporary is not the same as meaningless. I can meet you at a borrowed table. I can meet you in a rented room. I can meet you while boxes are still sealed and curtains have not been hung. My presence is not limited by property lines, square footage, ownership, or a particular zip code. Psalm 90 verse 1 calls the Lord a dwelling place through all generations. Let that truth steady you. An earthly home matters, but it is not the deepest shelter of your soul. Buildings can be sold, leases can end, markets can change. My presence remains. This does not mean you should become passive. It means your deepest security does not have to rise and fall with every listing. You can search diligently without worshiping the outcome. You can submit applications without handing them the power to define your future. You can hope for a yes without collapsing when the answer is no. There is another burden we need to name: comparison. You see someone else's keys, closing photo, remodeled kitchen, or new neighborhood, and your own situation suddenly feels smaller. You do not see their full finances, their private stress, their family support, or the sacrifices behind the image. Comparison removes context and turns another person's moment into a judgment against your life. Close that door in your mind. Your responsibility is not to reproduce someone else's timeline. Your responsibility is to walk honestly within the life you have been given. You are allowed to choose a home that fits your real income rather than an image designed for public approval. You are allowed to protect your peace even when other people do not understand. Perhaps the shame is especially heavy because you are a parent, a spouse, or the person everyone expects to be strong. You may believe that a change of address proves you have let your family down. But the people you love need more than a perfect building. They need your honesty, your presence, your patience, and your willingness to make decisions that protect the household over time. A child can feel secure in a smaller home when the adults are emotionally present and the environment is safe. A family can grow closer during a difficult transition when the truth is communicated with tenderness. You do not have to hide every concern, but you also do not have to pour adult panic into a child's heart. Share what is appropriate. Offer reassurance you can honestly keep. Invite questions. Maintain simple routines where possible. Do not promise that nothing difficult will happen. Promise that you will keep seeking help, telling the truth, and taking the next responsible step. That kind of steadiness builds trust. If you live alone, your need for support is no less important. Isolation can magnify every fear. Let someone know what you are facing. Ask a trusted person to review a listing, accompany you to see a property, or check in after an appointment. Wisdom often becomes clearer in safe community. I know asking for help may feel like exposing a private failure, but humility is not humiliation. Humility says, I do not have to know everything, carry everything, or solve everything alone. There are people whose experience, contacts, training, or practical support may become part of the answer. Do not assume that receiving help makes you a burden. People who love you often prefer a clear request over discovering later that you were suffering in silence. Now I want to speak to the dream you may need to release. You had a picture of where you would live by this age. You imagined a certain neighborhood, a room for each child, a yard, a porch, a familiar church, or a home close to work. That picture may have represented safety, achievement, or proof that years of effort had finally paid off. It is all right to mourn when reality does not match that picture. Disappointment is not ingratitude. Bring it to me without editing it. Say, Lord, this is not what I hoped for. I am tired of adjusting. I am afraid that letting go of this dream means I will never have a good future. Then open your hands. Releasing one picture is not releasing all hope. It is making room to recognize provision that arrives in another form. A good next step may not be your final destination. It may simply be the safe, sustainable place where you regain strength, rebuild resources, and make future decisions from stability instead of emergency. Do not put the weight of forever on the next lease. Do not demand that one property resolve every disappointment in your life. Ask whether it is safe enough, affordable enough, workable enough, and appropriate for this season. The word enough can protect you from the endless pressure of perfect. You may also need to reconsider location. A different neighborhood may offer lower costs, a better commute for another family member, access to support, or a community you did not expect. Investigate carefully. Visit at different times when possible. Ask about transportation, utilities, safety, maintenance, and the terms of the agreement. Let curiosity replace assumption. Do not romanticize a place merely because it is new, and do not reject it merely because it is unfamiliar. Learn the facts. I am teaching you a form of active surrender. Surrender does not mean closing every browser tab and refusing to make calls. It means releasing the demand to control every outcome. You do the work that belongs to you, and you entrust what you cannot control to me. You can say, Lord, I will review the budget. I will ask for help. I will gather information. I will submit what is needed. I will walk away from dishonest or unsustainable terms. I will not force a decision simply to escape discomfort. Lead me as I move. That prayer creates a healthier posture. Your hands are active, but they are not clenched. When another rejection comes, do not immediately write a story about your entire future. Say only what is true. This application was denied. This property is no longer available. These terms do not work. Then ask, what information do I need? What can I learn? What is the next responsible option? A closed door can be disappointing without becoming a prophecy. When an opportunity appears, do not immediately call it a miracle and ignore the details. Gratitude and examination can exist together. Thank me, then read the agreement. Pray, then verify. Hope, then count the cost. You are not betraying faith by asking for documentation. You are not resisting me by seeking professional advice. Truth does not fear careful questions. I want to restore your confidence in your own capacity to make a wise choice. Anxiety may tell you that you are too overwhelmed, too late, or too inexperienced. But you can slow the process enough to gather support. You can make a checklist. You can ask someone to review it. You can request clarification. You can sleep on a decision when the timeline allows. You can say no. Repeat this slowly. I am allowed to make decisions from truth instead of fear. Again, I am allowed to make decisions from truth instead of fear. Now add this. My worth is not measured by my address. And this. I can ask for help without losing my dignity. And this. I will take the next wise step and release what I cannot control. These are not magic words. They do not guarantee an approval. They are reminders that keep your mind anchored while circumstances are changing. Notice how your breathing feels now. Perhaps the problem is still present, but you are no longer standing inside it without direction. You have language for the shame. You have boundaries for the decision. You have a small plan for the next 24 hours. That is a meaningful shift. There is one more fear I want to address. The fear that moving means you are going backward. A move can represent loss. It may take you away from familiar streets, neighbors, routines, or memories. It may require explaining something you would rather keep private. Do not minimize that grief. But do not confuse change with defeat. A wiser financial decision is progress. Leaving an unsafe environment is progress. Reducing debt pressure is progress. Accepting temporary support so you can recover is progress. Choosing truth over appearance is progress. Building a plan with counsel is progress. The direction of your soul matters more than the size of the building. If you are leaving a home connected to divorce, bereavement, job loss, illness, or another painful transition, give yourself permission to move slowly through the emotions, even when the practical work must happen quickly. Packing can awaken memories. Empty rooms can make loss feel fresh. Ask people you trust to help. Take breaks. Eat. Rest when you can. Do not judge yourself for feeling more than one thing at once. You may feel relieved and heartbroken, hopeful and exhausted, grateful for help and embarrassed that you need it. Human emotions can stand beside each other. Bring all of them to me. If your body is showing signs of severe or prolonged anxiety, if you cannot sleep for many nights, if panic is interfering with daily function, or if you feel unsafe with yourself or someone else, reach out to a qualified mental health professional, a medical professional, emergency services, or a trusted person immediately. Prayer can support you, but you do not have to face dangerous or disabling symptoms with prayer alone. I care about your spirit, mind, and body. Seeking care is not a failure of faith. Now let us prepare your heart for prayer. You do not need to create the right emotion. You do not need to make yourself calm before coming to me. Come as you are, with the figures on the page, the deadline on the calendar, the unanswered messages, the boxes, the fear, and the hope you are almost afraid to feel. Father, I bring this beloved person before you. You see every detail of this housing situation. You know the deadlines, the income, the expenses, the applications, the family needs, the legal concerns, the physical exhaustion, and the private fear. Nothing is hidden from you, and nothing about this struggle makes them less worthy of love. Let your peace enter the places where panic has been ruling. Not a peace that denies reality, but a peace that helps them face reality with a clear mind. Slow the racing thoughts. Ease the tension in their body. Give them enough rest to think, enough courage to ask for help, and enough patience to avoid decisions driven only by urgency. Give them wisdom as they review their finances. Help them distinguish what is essential from what can wait. Show them the full cost of each option. Protect them from predatory loans, deceptive listings, unsafe properties, hidden fees, unfair pressure, and agreements they do not understand. Lead them toward qualified counsel when the situation requires legal, financial, medical, or housing expertise. Give them courage to tell the truth about what they can afford. Free them from the need to impress people who are not responsible for the payment. Help them choose stability over appearance, sustainability over pride, and peace over prestige. Father, Bring trustworthy people around them. Give them the humility to make a clear request and the discernment to know whom to trust. Let friends, relatives, churches, counselors, housing professionals, community organizations, or legal advocates provide useful information and practical support. Protect them from shame that would keep them isolated. For the person facing an immediate deadline, make the next step clear. Help them contact the right office, ask the right question, gather the right documents, and respond before time runs out. Where an extension, payment plan, temporary placement, or other lawful option is possible, give them favor and wisdom in the conversation. Where a door remains closed, give them strength to keep moving, without turning the disappointment into self-condemnation. For the person who may not have a safe place to stay, stir them to seek help now. Guide them toward safe people and reputable local services. Protect children, older adults, people with disabilities, and anyone whose health or safety is especially vulnerable during this transition. For the family carrying guilt, replace guilt with honest leadership. Help parents and caregivers communicate with calm, age-appropriate truth. Preserve routines where possible. Give children reassurance without false promises. Let the home, whether temporary or permanent, become a place where love is practiced, even while uncertainty remains. For the person moving alone, be close in the quiet rooms. Send companionship through people who can help pack, drive, review documents, or simply listen. Remind them that needing support does not make them weak. For those grieving a home they loved, honor the memories held in those walls. Give them grace to say goodbye. Let them carry forward what was good, without believing that all goodness has been left behind. Meet them in every empty room, every labeled box, and every final look through the doorway. For those ashamed of downsizing, renting, sharing housing, or returning to family, restore their dignity. Teach them that a season of rebuilding is not an identity. Let wise temporary choices become a foundation for future health, rather than a source of hidden resentment. Father, guide every practical detail. Give strength for phone calls, forms, packing, cleaning, transportation, deposits, utilities, storage, and the physical demands of moving. Help them break the work into manageable pieces. Bring reliable hands when the burden is too heavy for one person. Provide daily bread for the costs they can responsibly meet. Give them creativity, discipline, and access to appropriate resources. Where there is a true financial gap, help them seek legitimate assistance without falling for scams or promises that prey on desperation. Teach them to ask questions, verify information, and protect what little they may have. Give them wisdom about location and timing. Help them examine neighborhoods, commutes, safety, schools, accessibility, maintenance, and community needs with open eyes. Keep them from idealizing what is expensive or dismissing what is unfamiliar. Let facts, counsel, prayer, and responsible judgment work together. Most of all, restore their identity. Let them know deeply that they are not a credit score, a lease decision, a mortgage approval, a property deed, or a monthly payment. Their worth is not reduced by a market they cannot control. Their dignity is not canceled by a setback. They belong to you. Teach them to receive your presence in the place they occupy today. Before the next address is known, let the current room become a place of prayer. Before the furniture is arranged, arrange their heart around truth. Before the future becomes clear, give them enough light for today's step. When comparison returns, remind them that another person's timeline is not their assignment. When shame returns, remind them that asking for help is an act of wisdom. When urgency returns, remind them that pressure does not have the right to make every decision. When disappointment returns, remind them that one closed option does not define the whole future. Give them a sound mind. Help them pause before signing. Help them read before agreeing. Help them ask before assuming. Help them walk away when the terms are unsafe. Help them move forward when the facts, counsel, and circumstances support a responsible choice. Let surrender become active trust. May they do what is theirs to do and release what is beyond their control. May they work without frantic striving, pray without demanding a particular outcome, and hope without denying uncertainty. Father, establish the work of their hands, as Psalm 90 prays. Let their calls be clear, their applications complete, their conversations honest, and their decisions wise. Not because they have earned a life without difficulty, but because your grace is present in every faithful step. Where there has been sleeplessness, give rest. Where there has been conflict, give patient communication. Where there has been confusion, give order. Where there has been isolation, give community. Where there has been fear, give courage for the next action. I ask that they would recognize help when it comes, even if it does not look like the answer they first imagined. Give them freedom to accept a safe, temporary solution. Give them humility to revise a plan. Give them endurance to continue searching when the process takes longer than they hoped. Protect them from spiritual manipulation. Do not let anyone use fear, prophecy, pressure, or promises of guaranteed blessing to exploit their need. Give them discernment to reject claims that demand money, secrecy, or unquestioning trust. Lead them toward truth, transparency, and responsible care. Let their future home, wherever and whenever it becomes available, be shaped by peace, honesty, hospitality, and wise stewardship. Let it be a place where people can breathe, where love is not measured by furniture, and where gratitude grows without denying the work it took to arrive there. Until then, be their dwelling place. Be near in the waiting room. Be near in the car after another viewing. Be near at the table with the calculator. Be near when they make the difficult call. Be near when they ask for help. Be near when they release an option that cannot be carried safely. My child, receive this truth without turning it into a prediction. You do not know every detail of what comes next, but you do not have to face it without God, wisdom, community, or practical support. The future is not yours to control. The next step is yours to take. When you finish listening, choose one action for the next 24 hours. Review the budget honestly. Call one trusted person. Contact one reputable housing or legal resource. Request one document. Ask one clear question. Write down one non-negotiable boundary. Do not try to do all of them at once. Choose the step that best matches the urgency of your situation. Then stop for the day when the responsible work is done. Eat something nourishing. Drink water. Rest your eyes. Let your body know that it does not have to remain on emergency alert every hour. Tomorrow may require more work, but tonight does not need to contain every answer. You are not your housing crisis. You are not your rejection letter. You are not the number on the screen. You are a person worthy of care, truth, safety, and wise support. Take another slow breath. Say, I will not let fear sign my name. Say, I will ask for help when I need it. Say, my worth is secure even while my address is uncertain. Say, I will take the next wise step and entrust the outcome to God. Father, hold this person close as they move from prayer into action. Give them courage without recklessness, patience without passivity, hope without denial, and faith that works through wisdom. Let your presence steady them in every room, every conversation, and every decision. Father, I ask this for them with love and mercy. Amen. If this prayer spoke to your housing situation, you may comment, I will take the next wise step. Like the video if it helped you feel calmer and think more clearly, and subscribe for more scripture-grounded prayers and devotionals. Share it privately with someone who may need steady encouragement during a housing transition. May you move forward with wisdom, support, and peace.